From Forbes breaking news, Marjorie Taylor Greene confronts top CBP official about CBP One app used by migrants entering the U.S.
Ms. Greene is recognized for 5 minutes for questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Crane, for pointing out the most important things that people outside of this city talk about. While you all are paid with a taxpayer-funded paycheck, I want you to know that most Americans are concerned exactly about what Mr. Crane talked about. There's also many Americans, like in my home state of Georgia, that are still grieving the death of a young woman named Laken Riley, who was brutally murdered by an illegal alien that came into this country in Venezuela, who had injured a child in New York, was not deported. In my district, fentanyl is a real problem. It's a serious problem.
Yeah, and fentanyl is a problem everywhere, which I think in large part is manufactured in China and smuggled to the U.S. through Southern America. And that's not to say there isn't some people in, the backcountry, the farmland of California or upstate New York creating this stuff too. But it's quite literally everywhere, and that's on top of the actual physical crimes besides drugs that these illegals are committing.
Fentanyl doesn't discriminate based on politics or identity, sexual orientation, or race. Fentanyl is...
Well, it kind of does, right? Because the dope fiends, the junkies, are typically, well, they're probably not voting. But if they did, they would vote for the weirdo leftist hack Democrat establishment shills because they are on the brink of death, and the Democrats are promising them just a couple more crumbs so they can get high today.
Killing people.
And they also, for the record, they want to pass out these fentanyl testing strips as though the dope fiends are going to use them, right? So, oh yeah, we're going to have more beds and mental health and we're going to help the junkies. But of course, the junkies don't want the help. And as far as the testing strips are concerned, do you really think that a junkie is going to test his dope for fentanyl, even though most of them want fentanyl at this point? But for the sake of argument, say he didn't, but was on another drug and it tests positive for fentanyl. He says, oh, well, guess I'm not going to get high today. I better go back to the dealer and ask for my money back. It's all ridiculous.
People every single day. And it's also something that's extremely concerning for everyone in my district. This is such an outrage to most Americans. And again, they pay all of our paychecks with their hard-earned tax dollars, that our country is under invasion. It is an invasion. Now, while we believe that people should legally immigrate to America and follow the laws, all of our laws are being completely broken. And the fact that over 10 million people have come in our country...
They are being completely broken by a criminal regime that is importing criminals from all around the world and enabling, homebred criminals to smash and grab and squat in houses and bip and rob, all that stuff.
And there's 2 million gotaways on your watch, 2 million gotaways that are capable of doing something like Mr. Crane just talked about.
2 million gotaways that you know about.
Terrorist attack or the daily crime committed against innocent Americans, whether it's a tragic car accident that kills Americans in the car, whether it is a fentanyl poisoning, a murder the fentanyl comes from China to Mexico and comes into our country, or whether it's a brutal murder like what happened to Laken Riley. It's happening every single day. The CBP One app is the most fascinating thing to me. While Congress just banned TikTok.
And apparently the regime is more concerned with the nomenclature used to identify the criminals than they are with the crimes that they're committing.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but that's not a big thing, okay? What's the big thing about it?
No, I actually wasn't even going to ask about that. I was just going to ask more about the moment. But you do think that he should have said undocumented? That wasn't going to be my question.
Well, we usually say undocumented. He said illegal. I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
But during your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented.
We have this app that our government funds that it's shocking statistics. More than 459,000 individuals have scheduled Southwest border appointments with the CBP One app since January 2023. And 96% of those scheduled appointments with the app were issued a notice to appear and paroled into the country. 96%. The CBP One app is like a welcoming app. Welcome to America. Come on in. You aren't vetting people. We've heard from witnesses before our committee. We heard from one mother whose daughter was horrifically raped and murdered, and the man that raped and murdered her daughter had gang tattoos and cartel tattoos all over him. And he was allowed in the country.
No, that couldn't be. And even if that did happen, it's certainly not representative of the rest of the illegals we're letting into the country.
And he brutally raped and murdered her daughter, and her daughter's boyfriend still has the voicemail on his phone of her last 2 minutes of life while she was calling him in panic. And that voicemail is her being raped and murdered.
Now, just a little bit of devil's advocate here. That may or may not have happened, but just keep in mind that as soon as a weirdo Democrat tells an insane story that is completely off the rails, not likely to have happened at all, you're just supposed to take that as fact. But when she says that, same thing with Hunter Biden and all of the hypocrisies. It's nonstop. But as crazy as that story sounds, I am a little bit more inclined to believe her because she actually tells the truth and backs up what she says with facts most of the time. But I can almost assume that the weirdo political establishment hacks are going to say, well, she can't prove that. That's a lie. But when they do it, you're just supposed to. I'm thinking specifically of Barbara Lee, who's trying to run for Senate in California, said there was somebody in Washington, D.C. that was racist to her.
I was walking from the House building on Capitol Hill to the Capitol, and a white guy, stopped me and told me I could not get into the members' elevator. And, we have pens, and I was going to vote. And he blocked me from getting into the elevator and told me I was not a member of Congress and it was for members only. I said, sir, I'm a member of Congress. And I showed him my pen, and he said, whose pen did you steal? Now, this is an example of what personal racism is.
All completely made up, like Jussie Smollett. You're supposed to buy all that, believe it, and even if it didn't happen, it could have. Right? So you still have to do what we say. But when a woman like this says something, you got to take that with a grain of salt because she could be lying. She's MAGA KKK.
This is what our country is dealing with. And it seems to fall on deaf ears when we talk to witnesses like you.
Of course, because they're doing it on purpose. So they don't want to hear you complain about it. They're just going to keep doing it.
It's unbelievable. Ms. Sabatino, according to DHS, applicants for the CHNV program, quote, undergo a clear and robust security vetting,
False.
end quote. A clear and robust security vetting. In order.
No, they just give them an app, which, to be honest with you, I'd heard a little bit about this app, but I still don't know too much about it. But if they have an app, it's safe to assume they're giving them the phone that comes with the app, or they're just telling them to download the app on the phone that they brought through the Darien Gap or whatever.
order to obtain advanced travel authorization through CHNV parole program, an individual provides biometric information, including a photograph, using the CBP-1 app. Now, on our committee, well, they're all gone, there are Democrats that signed a letter, literally signed a letter.
Why are the Democrats gone? How come there are no Democrats there? It's because they don't want to hear the truth. It scares them. You can't let a tiny bit of actual factual reality get into the leftist bubble, so they just leave. And if they stay, they want to scream you down and protest and chase Kyle Rittenhouse and scream at Candace. Remember when they were screaming at Candace Owens? It's all ridiculous.
Saying that it's unfair, completely unfair, that transgender migrants have to provide a photo. That's unfair to them. And they would like to take away the photo requirement on the CBP-1 app.
For transgender migrants, it's wow, I had not heard of that. So, of course, if you make it and you get to California, then you can become a transgender migrant. But if you're on your way up here, then you shouldn't have to show them a picture.
Are all individuals in the CHNV parole process required to submit biographical information through CBP-1?
Biographic and biometric. It's the photo.
Can you imagine not having a photo?
The facial biometric matching is a significant security enhancement to the CBP-1 app.
Are you keeping criminals out of our country with the CBP-1 app?
This woman is completely despicable, and she looks. Now, it's hard for me to tell, especially with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a firebrand, and I know exactly what she does. And you have no choice but to judge a book by its cover. But now this is the army suit that Dr. Admiral Richard Rachel Levine wishes he could wear. But this person has quite clearly been installed by somebody behind the curtain, dare I say it, somebody in the deep state, to allow these people to traffic people and drugs across the border. And she's not going to answer any of the questions about how the app helps.
The CBP-1 app really is just the tool to move the information, but we are taking the biographic and biometric.
Yeah, that's the tool to move the information while we move the people.
Information and matching it against watch lists, our law enforcement's databases, travel data, criminal records, as well as our derogatory photo index.
So do you sleep good at night? Like, do you know for a fact that you're keeping these criminals out of our country with the CBP-1 app? You're confident that you're keeping out rapists, murderers, cartel members? You're terrorists? You're confident that you're keeping them out of our country?
Congresswoman, as a 26-year career employee, I'm very well aware of the challenges that we are up against, and
So no, that's a no.
Sleep well knowing that our CBP officers and frontline personnel are doing their level best to protect the American communities.
That's just not true. That's provably untrue. We can watch the tape, but this woman has been trained to lie. Is it worth it? So Marjorie Taylor Greene says, do you sleep at night? But is this worth it? Is the Brinks truck that backed up to your apartment, to your house, is it really worth it to watch the demise of the country you likely grew up in?
So CBP-1 app processes the information and expedites people from over 160 countries around the world into our country, and you sleep good at night and you're confident in the CBP-1 app.
The CBP-1 app doesn't expedite individuals. It actually affords advanced information to our officers to do that robust vetting and screening, and the facial, obtaining the photos to do the facial biometric
So the answer is no.
match to our DROG index.
So you don't think already having the information in an app with the photo, when the migrants can come and select a date and time to come meet with Border Patrol, that doesn't expedite the process? You're saying that's not an expedition of the process?
I think I can highlight a number of instances over the last 10 years where migrants showing up at our ports of entry without any advance information quickly overwhelm our teams and then redirect our teams from doing things like interdicting fentanyl or outbound operations, seizing weapons and currency that funds the cartels. We have a lot of different disciplines and responsibilities at the ports of entry. Without that streamlined modern...
What is she even talking about, the ports of entry? They're literally breaking down fences and crawling under barbed wire through the river over the fence. The ports of entry? What are you talking about, lady? This woman is despicable. Par for the course. Why did they put all this weird little weasel woman in? Or I guess she's not in charge of the border, but all of these people have got to go. Send them back to Venezuela with the rest of the criminal illegals.
Process, we would be solely focused on processing individuals who are required to afford the opportunity to request asylum at our ports of entry.
Sure.
Hold on. There is no asylum, and she wants to pretend like it's the ports of entry. It's absolutely not. Now, I have personally been down to the border, not in some of the worst places, the overpasses, the tents, the airports, the police stations, all of that. But she wants to pretend that this is all about the ports of entry, and maybe that's what she's in charge of, which I'd assume would be largely empty because most of it is happening not at the port of entry.
Of people showing up at one time at a port of entry or at the border along the way it would be considered an invasion. That's what most Americans are calling it. And
it is an invasion. We can literally see it.
Most Americans are...
And, sorry, but you can live through it, right? With the small amount of illegals that I've dealt with, I can say, if I wanted to put it very nicely, they're not a friendly bunch, okay?
Against the fact that their taxpayer dollars are having to pay for a handy-dandy app that people can download and enter the information so they can be expedited into America. It's outrageous. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead.
Okay, this is absolutely crazy. This app, this port of entry, it's crazy to watch these people squirm and weasel their way out of the questions because all they're doing, we know it, they know it, they know we know it, they're destroying the country in front of our eyes.